Let's talk about Brendon Mccullum. He is, of course, the coach now of the white ball teams as well as the red ball. There's been a lot of talk about England's greatest ever batter. You could argue he isn't, but he's certainly in the conversation, Jos Buttler. At Lord's in September, when it was announced that Brendon Mccullum was going to be taking up white ball cricket, he said that Jos Buttler been looking a little bit miserable, which was a surprise to hear him say that. I wouldn't disagree. But, you know, there's different ways to captain a side. I mean, I know Mike Atherton, when he was a captain, when you came in as England coach, wasn't exactly famous for cracking jokes and giving, batters a back massage if and when it went wrong. Nasser Hussain, I can't imagine...
now you're talking.
I can't imagine his style of captaincy changing just because someone's come in and has got a boombox on the outfield and is playing some tunes.
Came in with a tight 5 minutes of stand-up at the start of every play.
Exactly. Does it matter?
Well, we talk about smile. He's put a smile on his face. That when you win, you smile. We've got to see how they are.
I don't know, Nasser, did he smile even when he won?
No, I mean, when you're talking miserable, I mean, you're right up there. You're talking about a market leader with Nasser. But, I mean, Atherton was great fun in the dressing room. He'd crack a yarn all the time. But talk about Goffey. Just ask Goffey about Nasser. He's got some great Nasser stories. But a wonderful captain, the same. A wonderful man, by the way, if not a little bit tight. But anyway, England are going to put, I think, one of the best teams out in this, but he said they're all going to get a go, and I think they've got a strong squad.
But in terms of getting the best out of a captain and players and getting the results, I mean, can one man make that much of a difference? I mean, it's not like he's got Jason Roy, Johnny Bairstow, Owen Morgan. I mean, Ben Stokes. That makes it a bit easier. Yeah,
I think they've got a lot of dynamic players that they can choose. They've got a strong squad. But I chuckled. It's not long ago when it was the mantra was that, you know, a coach can't do everything. We've got to split it, which England did. And I've noticed that India have got the same coach. When India had Ravi Shastri, it was the same coach. Jared, how's it going in Australia? Is it the same guy, or do they split it?
So Andrew McDonald's the coach, isn't he? But what they do is they do what England used to do, where sometimes the assistant coaches will take charge of specific tours and everything like that. But yeah, I think it's too much for one person anymore.
But he is a dynamic sort of bloke, and we talk about smiling, and you never see him anything else. He just enjoys cricket. You can see that McCullum is a cricket man. He's a cricket person. And what we've heard from Buttler is that he's looked to be working with him closely. He's been at a distance. He's not been in the test team. Now, the pair of them are together, and he's making all the right noises. Buttler is saying that I'm looking forward to this partnership. The other thing that I would say, that when the previous coach, Mott, when he left, it could have been Buttler. It was the coach that went. You can bet your life that Rob Key has gone to Buttler and said, who do you want?
Is Buttler a good captain, Jared?
I don't think he's a strategically great captain. And we haven't heard a lot of stories about him making people feel like they can run through brick walls or anything off the field. And those are the two things you're looking for, right? You know, we always used to talk about Ponting and co. He's not good strategically, but he could take a very average player and make them feel like they were 10 foot tall. And so that still has an impact. I think we haven't really heard those stories from Buttler. Strategically, he's very, very white rice.
And he's not keeping wicket. Certainly in this game, and we'll see during this series whether he keeps wicket. Phil Salt is keeping wicket, so that releases the captaincy angle. I don't know where he's going to stand, mid-off or mid-on, but I think it's difficult for white ball especially to be wicket-keeper captain.
What about the relationship between coach and captain? Describe your relationship.
It's changed. It's changed dramatically from that time in the 90s when I saw my role as support the captain. The captain's in charge, it's his team. And I will do whatever he wants to make it clearer to win the game and prepare. We will prepare the team. I think it's totally different now when you talk about the coach is selecting the side. He'll decide what the team is. Now, I think that maybe just started from an England viewpoint with Duncan Fletcher, with central contracts, where the coach became very, very powerful, and it stayed that way. Certainly in English cricket. Go back to my time, absolutely not. I was there to support Michael Atherton and latterly Alex Stewart.
but you still implemented your personality. I remember back in the day, when you came in, there was a feeling that this was a new way of doing things. That you brought a fresh approach. You had the motivational quotes up on the dressing rooms and the
I'm talking preparation there. And the one thing that I instilled or wanted, and I had a good fitness squad as coaches. I want them fit. I want them stronger than the opposition. We might not be better batters, we might not be better bowlers. We will outfield whoever we play against, and to outfield anybody, you've got to be fit, you've got to be dynamic, and you've got to be athletic. And that was really, I worked hard at that, and the players were terrific. They bought into it. Took a bit of time, took a little bit of time, but they got there.
Well, you came in towards the back end of the 90s, and then at the start of the 90s, we had this rivalry in terms of approach between Graham Gooch, who was very much of that school. Everybody has to be in the nets, everybody has to do their fitness, then you had the David Gowers of this world, who didn't really want to go down that route.
I could easily accommodate your David Gowers. From the technical side of things, I wanted to ask the players, what do you need? What do you want? Philip Tufnell, you can't set a Philip who's a fantastic lad. This is what you're going to do. You don't do it that. What do you want to do? What do you want to do? And he'd tell you what he wanted to do. But there would be givens that they would all buy into, the team, that fielding, catching, throwing, aggressive, getting to the ball, pick it up, knock the stumps out. We would work hard at that. We would work really hard.
How important is it that when you walk into that dressing room, and actually, Jared, you can speak from the other side of this, actually, thinking about your time within the dressing room in the CPL, but how important is it that when you walked into that dressing room, and those 11 players and a couple more, they looked up and they recognised someone who had been there and done it and reached the highest level?
Yeah, I remember having this conversation with Mark Butcher once. Remember, South Africa picked a couple of coaches that weren't test players, right? And he was saying that he would have found it hard specifically to play for someone who wasn't a test player themselves, even if they were a first-class player, even if they were a good player. But a lot of it is, if you look at American sports, right, like most of the great coaches are not players at all. And so it really is about your authority as a person. How can you educate? How can you pass a message through? You can hire an assistant coach who's a former legend. Justin Langer was really weird. He kept bringing in Steve Waugh and Ricky Ponting because he's like, we need Aussie legends. And everyone's like, you're also pretty good at cricket, Justin. Just pick someone else. So I think there is an element of that, but it's about authority as a coach, right?
I think you need a mix. You certainly need, within your coaching setup, you need a couple of people who've definitely been there and done it, but you need analysts, you need technical experts on certain, either fielding or spin bowling, and you might draw in from other countries to do that. But analysis now is very important, because they've got all the gizmos, they've got all the technical stuff to look at strengths and weaknesses of your own team, and in particular the opposition. Let's see where they are a little bit vulnerable. And if you look at football, you can see some of the greatest managers of all time have never been great players. But it's how you look after players. I think man management is vitally important. Coming back to McCullum, from what I see, I think he's an excellent man manager that gets them feeling good. There's something about feeling good when you go out and play. Now, people listening might say, of course, you're only playing cricket, of course you should feel good, and I agree 100%. You can't be miserable playing cricket. You've got to enjoy it.
Let's hear from the skipper, Jos Buttler, talking about how he feels about the fact he's now going to be working closely with Brendon Mccullum as a captain and a coach.
Really excited to develop professional coach and captain relationship. I think he'll be really good for me, and I think just loads to look forward to. Really, it's a really exciting time. I think I've been sort of really energised and sort of looking forward to this moment. Getting on tour with these guys ever since Baz got mentioned that he could become the white ball coach as well, and I think also just for England cricket as a whole to have that one guy back in charge of everything. Sort of, lots of guys here have been with the Test side, so it's nothing new for them. The environment that he creates, and obviously the other coaches with him as well. So it's a lot of familiarity for a lot of guys anyway.
What do you think Jos needs from Brendon Mccullum then?
Well, support, friendship, mateship, as they call it these days. That's an exciting thing, or an interesting thing to listen to, that interview. And I come back to what I said. Rob Key will have gone to him, who do you want? And might have mentioned that name, and he said, yes, please. Because if he'd have gone and said, we've got him, and well, I'm not so sure. Captain, if he's going to be the captain of the team, which he is, that's what they've said, he's going to want the right support around him. And he would have asked, when the name got mentioned, yes, please, I'll have him.
I've often wondered what Jos Buttler we would have seen under Brendon Mccullum as a test player, because he, of course, stopped playing at pretty much the same time Brendon Mccullum came in, pretty much.
Yeah.
We'll never know, but we are about to find out what kind of Jos Buttler England's white ball team are going to get under Brendon Mccullum.